Taking a look today at 1979 Harley-Davidson lowrider, also called the FXS. This is the 80 cubic inch model. Had this for quite a few years. Not sure where to begin. I remember when I was looking at Harley-Davidsons, I was looking at Super Glides, the FXE, and I was also looking at Super Glide Fat Bobs, which I thought was a really cool name. That was the FXEF. And then was also looking at lowriders, again the FXS. So, like the Super Glide Fat Bob, the FXS came with the dual gas tanks, which are real. Both gas caps are functional. And it came with the instruments in between the gas tank, tach and speedometer. But in addition to what was provided on the Super Glide Fat Bob, the lowrider came with the Kickstarter. It also came with highway pegs, an oil cooler, and as I understood, the forks are longer than on the Super Glide. And this year the lowrider came with the drag style handlebars and these wrinkle black dual mirrors. And also this one-piece sissy bar was unique to the lowrider. I say one piece because the side plates don't unbolt from the sissy bar itself. Came with this emblem. I often thought of getting another one and putting it on this side, but I never got around to that apparently. I added these at some point to keep saddlebags out of the wheel and chain, but I, in truth, never bought the saddlebags. Let's take a look at the mileage. Right now it's 22,000, and if I remember correctly, it had 6,000 miles when I got it, and around 20,000 miles the exhaust valve on the rear cylinder committed suicide, and I was in for a top-end job at that point. And since then, have not found the opportunity to ride it very much. It doesn't really have that many miles on the top end. Something else that I added, spin-on oil filter. This is a Harley accessory. And before I switched to this arrangement, from a 1981 lowrider, I got the oil filter adapter that went under here somewhere, and the bolts didn't really line up, so it was hanging on by one bolt. So I didn't run that for very long. I switched to the one we just saw at the front of the engine. While I'm thinking about it, another unique feature of the lowrider was the primary housing, the fork legs, and the timer cover, and the Kickstarter housing. Instead of being like a polished aluminum, they're painted this gray color. Used to be you could see the liquid in the battery through these windows, but batteries today have opaque cases, so that isn't working. This isn't the stock air cleaner, nor is it the air cleaner that was on the motorcycle when I got it. The motorcycle from the factory had a 2-in-1 exhaust, and I've got that on the garage wall now, but it was not installed when I got the motorcycle. When I got it, it had the individual staggered duals. I believe they were Santee brand name, and I actually sold those on eBay not too long ago. This exhaust system is off of like a early 80s lowrider Super Glide. It's got the balance tube between the front and the back. And then these mufflers, which clamp on our Harley Screaming Eagle brand. You can see a nameplate broke off right there. And they are meant for this exhaust system. I don't know if Screaming Eagle still sells these. They're a little shorter than the original pipes, which were bigger in diameter. When I changed the exhaust system, was not happy to find out the Kickstarter had a different hinge here, and it just came around and hit the exhaust pipe. I've got that in my hand now. So it kind of held the Kickstarter to the side and up and back compared to where it is now. I had to buy this little piece off the same year motorcycle as the exhaust system for the lever to not interfere with the pipe, although it was literally this part that would come around and hit. I misspoke. The lever never hit. But I quickly found out with this hinge arrangement, as you saw in my other video, when kick-starting the motorcycle, the lever often tries to fold up when it's down, and that's dinged up the pipe. They really should have stuck with this setup, if you ask me. I actually looked at one of the solid levers that has like the bicycle pedal, but it didn't have enough offset to clear the exhaust system. I might keep looking for that. And then the motorcycle came with what they call the ham can oil filter, and I've replaced that with one off of an earlier motorcycle. I've even got this big rubber band around the outside, although that's cracking and will probably wind up alongside the road sooner or later. Again, looking at the handlebars, I know when I first got this, you could buy from Harley-Davidson a kit to turn it into the more conventional buckhorn style handlebars. I kind of wished I'd bought that and salted it away, but I really believe the drag bars are part of the overall look. Something else I should have bought. Harley sold as an accessory a piece of rubber to fill this gap, and I never bought it. I think I see one on eBay now though, so maybe I'll be able to buy that after all. Also thought I would buy the 3-piece sissy bar with the 2 separate plates and then the bolt-on bar, and have different sized bars that I could bolt on. And I don't think Harley sells those anymore. I might look for on eBay. Got this lock for the fork. I don't know where I got the idea. I must have seen someone else do this. It's never fallen off. It just dangles there until I use it to lock the fork. One thing I remember looking at these, if it was a Super Glide, the gas tank, there'd just be one, and it'd be up higher. And so the horn could be right here between the cylinders, as was the key. But with this much lower gas tank, they moved the horn up to here, and the key way back to there. And when I got it, I think the previous owner had cut a wire. There was a short loop of wire that shorted the ignition position to the headlight position. And I think he cut that wire so it restored the on and then headlight position. And then later, when I had the chance, I removed that jumper wire altogether. Still running the stock electronic ignition. When it fails, I might try that crane setup. Never have been too happy with the brakes. Tried many different brake pads. Added these little buttons here. I now regret that. That's just a sticker that goes on there. If they fall off, so much the better. I remember once I took the oil cooler and there's this V-shaped bracket behind it, and I took that out, so the oil cooler was down here. I thought that was simpler. And luckily the fender didn't come up and hit it. It's probably the extra length in the forks that saved me there. If I didn't mention already, the lowrider came with the highway pegs. I know I mentioned that, but I mean there's special lugs on the frame for that. It's not something you could bolt on to a Super Glide or even a Super Glide Fat Bob, if I remember correctly. It's starting to get a little dark on me here. There was more I was going to point out on this side. Maybe it was that that's a wide glide seat. I added that pretty recently. I don't know how I became aware that it wasn't that long ago. Harley had the wide glide seats at a pretty reasonable price, and I snapped one up. I was talking about the brakes earlier. That's a larger diameter rear disc. I found that in the junk pile somewhere for like $5. And then I bought this caliper mount from Harley-Davidson. One known deficient area here is with the smaller disc, the caliper is only supported at one end, and it bounces up and down and elongates the mounting holes. You'll often see a little spring added here to push it upwards, and I had one of those until I switched to this setup. I drilled another hole in the caliper on a drill press, and so on this stock mount, now it's supported at both ends. But I get a lot of pulsation with this setup, and I may have to have that disc machined flat and start again. Similarly at the front, if anyone has any suggestions what brake pads might provide a better stopping power, I'd certainly be up for suggestions there. And many stories I can tell, but one that I remember in particular, I was riding down the freeway one day, and someone probably honking their horn alongside of me, or looks like I've got a phone call. I better see what this is about. Hello? Yeah, I can do that. I'm actually in the middle of making a video right now. I'll call you back. Thanks. Sorry about that. So I was saying, I was riding along, and someone alongside of me on my left side got my attention, and I realized they were holding this out the window. They were holding this brass license plate frame out the window, and so with my left hand I reached out and I took it and I put it in my jacket. In truth, I've never put it on the motorcycle. It's quite heavy, but I might polish it up and give that a whirl in the next few days here. Wanted to mention the tires. When I got this, it had the stock Goodyear tires, and I replaced those with these Dunlops, which now are quite old, much older than the Goodyears were at the time that I replaced them. I actually sold them recently on eBay. Hopefully they're in a museum somewhere. So, as we are losing light here, and I think I've said most of what I wanted to, let's see if it starts. It was running good last weekend, and just got a new battery. If you want to see a kickstart, you can see my other video. So I've got the gas on, I've got the key on, the choke's over here on the left. Waiting a couple minutes for the carburetor to fill up, a couple seconds I mean.